I have thought much of my ancestry in the context of the question that Paul and I will be asked and should be asked. How do you know why we're going there? And if when we get there, what will we become? What will we do? How will we behave? What will keep power as such as might be invested in us from corrupting? And I have thought much in the context of family, and my history, and my heritage here. My father was a tradesman and taught all of his boys. He had 5 sons and 2 daughters. And the daughters are probably harder workers than the boys. But taught us all plastering and block laying and masonry. My uncle was the mayor over here, and he's one of the Isaacsons in St. John's. So we would come up and work here in the summers and all over the mountain laying block and plaster. That idea of hard work that I and Paul and others talk about is absolutely critical in the mentality of a legislator. And that idea that we are no better or worse than any other man, and that all of us as men and women give to our legislators the power to serve us. I'm a constituent as well as a candidate. And whomever is selected, I want that person to remember whom we serve. That we are serving the regular people of our district. I've lived in this district 50 of my 57 years, and my entire life we've had a residence in this district, in District 1. I've served in the legislature. I'm a sculptor and painter by profession. I have a degree in watercolor, but most of what I do is large bronze castings. And we will be unveiling a bust of Jake Flake, who many of you may know, on the 24th of July over in Snowflake, and one also down at the Capitol. That sculpture thing, people say, okay, that's kind of weird. And I was kind of the pinup boy in the New Times. It's an alternative, very liberal, libertarian, to a newspaper in the Valley. Did a thing when I was serving in the legislature. That Bowers, truly a Renaissance man, sculptor, painter, musician, athlete, orchardist, yada yada. How come his politics are so Stone Age? You know? And because I was so conservative, that it didn't comport with the idea of an artist being conservative, which was a great thing for me, because I never wanted anybody to put me in a box. We tend to want to do that all too often. Put somebody in a box so we know how to handle them. And I didn't want anybody to do that. When we had to solve problems as legislators, both in rangeland management and forestry management, with Jake and the water stuff, with the Silver Creek adjudication that's going on right now, with the water that you have and where it's running, with SRP and all the interests who would love to have your water, and environmental education, rewriting that to show balance and require critical thinking skills of the kids. In all areas, we tried to use, and I have a record, which makes me unique in that I have a legislative record from the other candidates, that you can see. You can look me up. I have a history. Every bill I ever sponsored, every vote I ever took, and there were some that were very controversial. But I have a record, and it shows a conservative, principled approach to solving these problems that we face. And we have all of our daughters graduated from college, which I'm very thankful for, and the sons, and we have a young son who's not in yet, but everybody else is in the mode, and besides one of our graduates. Education's critical to us, but that idea that, we're going to vote next week, and I'm against that tax, and I'm right up front about it, because you need to know how I think, because a drunk will never get off the bottle until there's no bottle to drink off, until he has to sober up with what realities are. And that's what we have to do as citizens right now. We're all having to sober up and live within our means. And so that's my position on that. We have a long history of resolution. We've been in scouting. So all those things just help round out a person. I'm very, very interested in serving for this reason. Those 7 children and those soon to be now 7 grandchildren. And will they have the freedom to exercise as free men what they wish to do with their lives? Alec here with his dad, and whether asked to or forced to or otherwise. But I can remember and told him earlier how me with my father early in my life, going to hear Ezra Taft Benson, and then earlier listening to Dr. Skousen, the author of the 5,000-Year Leap. I worked with Dr. Skousen in 1985. I still have my little textbook when I took the original course, and it's pretty beat up, by the way. But what a great source of learning the 286 values that undergird the Constitution. And I'd like to close with that. All of us feel that our Constitution is being not only maligned, but ignored. But especially now at the national level. But those values of the Constitution are what make us want to obey it. Without the personal agency, the moral agency that we own, that we possess, that we exhibit, then that, if we don't have those, then all the Constitution is a well-guarded piece of paper. When you have those values, then you appreciate what's in the Constitution and what we're trying to fight for and maintain. Because it just is an umbrella over the values. And I'd like to challenge all of you and myself that we need to go back to the values that made the country, that are enshrined in the Constitution as we serve each other and as we work to bring back our country. And I want my country back for my kids. I'm 57. I could just easily take another 2-3 years and retire and see how long my retirement lasted with hyperinflation. But this is a time for me now to fight for my kids. I have experience. I've been in the battle. I have proof that under pressure and given some authority that I acted responsibly. And I leave those thoughts with you, and thank you very much for letting me come.